Happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's Let's Talk Live with HAWM Law. Our topic today is immigration. I hope some of you are still on your lunch break or you have a quick minute at work to be able to join us because we have some good information for you on filing for family members. We're not focused on today talking about filing for your spouse. Usually we talk about spouses a lot, but there are other family members that individuals are interested in filing for, and I want to focus on that today, right? So we also should have a guest with us, which is why we're kind of coming on late because we're having some technical difficulties with our guest and his audio, but hopefully he can join us. And as soon as he gets on, I will break from whatever I'm talking about and jump in and, you know, get him on because really want you to hear his story and his journey with his family and his experience with our firm in that process. But as far as family members are concerned, you need to really know who you can file from based on your status. So if you are a US citizen, other than your spouse, which is not our focus today, you do have the ability to file for your adult children, meaning they're over 21. They are whether they're married or unmarried. You also have the ability to file for parents as well as your siblings. If you are a permanent resident, you have less categories of people that you can file for. You can file for unmarried adult children who are over 21. Of course, you can file for your spouse, you can file for your child as well who is under 21, and that's about it. If you are a permanent resident, it's limited to just spouse, child under 21, and your adult unmarried children. And those are what we're kind of focusing on today in our discussion on Let's Talk Live, is really your what we call the preference category application. So not the immediate relative applications. And so when we're dealing with this particular category of immigration, you do have two avenues through which you can have these applications processed. The first avenue, which is, what a lot of people opt for, is an adjustment of status, being able to file for the individual while here in the United States. Or the second option is what we call consular processing, right? I see our guests coming on. I'm going to give him a moment to see if we work out the technical difficulties with him. All right. But the second option is consular processing. And consular processing is having that ultimate visa application determined at the embassy or consular post outside of the United States. And I really want to focus on the consular processing kind of more than the adjustment of status because we tend to talk about that a lot. But just briefly before we get into consular processing, in order to adjust your status in a preference category, the person has to be in the United States lawfully admitted or paroled. There has to be a visa number that's currently available. And so today I'm going to give some self-help aids for you to be able to figure out that. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can get an idea of what we need to look at, right? And hopefully this will work well. So if you are in a preference category, and let me zoom in here, you can always try to figure out what if a visa number is available. Mean, is this case ready to actually get a green card issued to it? And what we're looking at for this is the visa bulletin that is published by the Department of State. And it's a monthly bulletin. It's a backward looking bulletin, meaning it's not telling us what will happen in the future. It's telling us that these individuals who have applied at some time in the past, this is where they are in the process. And what it says is that, for example, In the F1 category, which is an unmarried son or a daughter of a US citizen, meaning that that individual is over 21 and unmarried, we go to that category of the visa bulletin here and we see that they have visa numbers available for applications that were filed or has a priority date on or before December 1st, 2014. Right? And that's for the unmarried son or daughter of a US citizen. And like I said earlier, you do also have the option, right, as a permanent resident to also file for an unmarried son or daughter over 21. You do not have to wait to become a US citizen in order to do that. And quite frankly, it is actually a little bit faster to do it sometimes as a resident. For example, in that category, if you are a citizen and you are applying for an unmarried adult child, they have visas available if your application was filed on or before December 1st. But if you are a resident filing for that same child, they have visas available for applications filed on or before September 22nd, 2015. So it is almost 1 year faster to file for an adult child as a resident as opposed to filing as a citizen. So depending on what your goals are, that will determine, do I need to file my citizenship right now, or do I want this child's application to process faster? And that is something that you need to evaluate with your immigration attorney to determine what is the best strategy here to get me to my end goal of having my family member here in the United States. The way the consular processing, and let me take it off the share screen. The way the consular processing portion of this works is that you initially will file a petition for that relative with USCIS. You're going to file the I-130 petition. It will take some time for that petition to be actually approved. And then once the petition is approved, it goes over to what's called the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is what I refer to in my practice for my staff as a document clearinghouse, right? It's a document warehouse. And what happens with that is you basically will submit additional documentation, the visa application, affidavit of support, police clearance, and you will pay the visa application and affidavit of support fee. Once the National Visa Center has cleared those documents and says that your file is documentarily complete, it will then send it over to the embassy, who will then schedule an interview for that family member at the embassy. And at the embassy level, that individual will then have to do their medical exam, and they will have to, and if the green card is in fact approved at the time of the interview, they will then also have to pay a green card application production fee, not an application, a green card production fee before they enter the US. Our guest is here, Mr. Kane is here, and I hear we've resolved some of the issues. So let me get him on live so we don't hold him up, and then we'll get back into the education part. So, Mr. Kane, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you a bit now.
All right, Mr. Kane, I'm glad to have you, and thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to educate our clients on your experience, on your journey in the U.S. immigration system. So, Mr. Kane is a former client of our office, um, and he's one of, our I won't say favorite because all my clients are my favorite, but he's definitely one of my memorable clients. And so, Mr. Kane, tell us how you heard about the firm. And
Well, is my wife went on an internet search, and we were living in Orlando, and we our children overstayed, and I filed for them off the 2 year condition green card, and she found you guys, and then we get a free consultation, and we realized you were Jamaican also,
mhm.
and so we get a free consultation on what we're supposed to do, and then we come to the office and we talk, and then but I was scared to bring them back down.
So take wait, before you're jumping ahead, You're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead. So tell our listeners who you were filing for. What was your goal?
Could you repeat that?
Who were you filing for?
Oh, my three kids.
And those were young kids, right? They were under 18, 21, or adults.
12, 8, and 4.
Okay. And at the time you were filing, right, they were here in the United States,
Yes.
right? And if I recall, you know, you weren't a US citizen at that time, right?
No, I was a permanent resident, a 2-year permanent resident, condition green card holder.
Right. So you were running into a roadblock because they couldn't adjust their status. So
That's
so tell the listeners how I almost gave you a heart attack.
well. After getting I got a denial letter for all three kids, and I get you now and reopen give them a letter and reopen the case, and then we start getting back documents that we have to take back the kids to Jamaica. That was the scary part. But before that, we applied for my 10-year removal of condition, which that was successful with you guys. And then we get the pre-approval for the kids. But they have to go back to Jamaica because I wasn't a U.S. citizen, as that was explained to me by your law firm.
Right. And so tell me your reaction when I told you you have to take the kids back to Jamaica.
Man, scary, scary, scary. I
So
remember sweating in your office on the air condition.
and and I remember telling you, and I say this often to my clients, that if you want to get to the other side of this process, this is what we have to do. And I remember telling you to talk to one of my former clients.
Yes, well, I was scared and I decided that I don't want to take them. And you refer me to one of your clients would be Miss Marie Reno, and she now ensure us that you had sent her back to Jamaica with her 17-year-old son, and he got through. And then we confront me and Miss Reno, and then she take me through the step that you guys had taken them through, and that was the same thing had happened to us. And I got the success, and thanks to you guys, I really appreciate it.
All right, and what tell them about what happened when you went to the embassy and the officer got it wrong.
Could you repeat that?
Remember when you went to the embassy? Educate the listeners about your interview in Jamaica.
Man, I got three denial. Three red flag was on the kid thing, and I went up to the gentleman. I started getting mad because I said, you guys was wrong, and everybody was telling me I shouldn't bring them back to Jamaica. And I went back up to the guy, and I remember what you told me about this form 601A. They've been asking for that form 601A for the kids. It was a pardon form for the kids to over that when they overstay. That was a pardon form, and the gentleman was asking me if that form was. She haven't seen the form in the package, and I remember what you had told me. So he wasn't budge. He gave me three denial slip and said, once they get that form, they keep the three passport and hand me back the birth certificate and said, well, these form I have to get them for the kids to re-enter. So I asked to speak to a supervisor, and the supervisor, well, he sent me to window 5 for a supervisor, and I explained to the supervisor that this 401A, I remember what you tell me, that is not applied to the children because they were under the age of 18. She went over to her computer and looked it up and said, Mr. Kane, you're absolutely correct. He took back the three birth certificates, and they gave me 7 days to get the visa. I remember again what you told me, that I could ask them to expedite the thing to come back. And I asked the gentleman, would you be kindly to expedite? And he said, how fast you want to leave? I said, today. He said, well, it's not going to happen. They give me 3 tickets and said I should bring a government ID. And then 1 o'clock the following day, I would get the visa. I went there. They hand me the 3 visa and said I should check the name, the date of birth, if everything is correct. And I was back to the United States. People, they couldn't believe, even my friends and family couldn't believe that, they video called me to see if I was really in the US because they video called me and see that we were in Jamaica when I just got there. So it was it was a roller coaster ride, but thanks to you guys, everything that I you told me to tell them, I tell them, and he's even asking me if I was a lawyer. I said no, but Sasha is.
That's right. Because it's so important. Sometimes the officers get it wrong. So you, as the applicant, you have to be armed with the information so you can advocate for yourself.
But let me tell you, I would recommend, because you had taken us stage by stage, explain everything to us, and it was spot on, was 100%. And if I have to do this again, which I don't, because I'm a U.S. citizen now, thanks to you guys again, um, it's I can tell anybody. People give me a negative feedback on I shouldn't take them down there because they're not gonna enter. But trust me, whatever you told me, I tell them, and they look up the information. It was 100%, and I recommend you guys to anybody. All my kids are U.S. citizen right now. I'm a U.S.
That's
citizen, and
right.
you know, thanks to you guys.
Yeah, and even with he give me a hard time. He gave me a hard time
Well,
because
I can remember with tears in my eyes, I said to
yes,
you, you said to me, Mr. Ken, what do you want? What more do I have to explain? I was 100% scared. I said, well, you said, I can remember you said, you know what? I'm going to recommend you to clients that I sent to Jamaica, and they get their thing there. And and she explained everything. It made me feel better, but I was still scared. Trust me, everything you said was correct, and I explained whatever you tell me to the immigration officer, and that's how we all get back here, and everything was fine. It was one, two, three.
good. So other than I know you got the result that you were looking for, but explain to the clients what your experience was just dealing with the office and dealing with the people in our office.
Well, this I didn't get lunch, but but trust me, the staff are friendly. They explain everything, and they make you comfortable in whatever case. I know everybody case is different, but our case was based upon your experience. Listen, I thought you were fed up of me. I called you even when you were at home, the way I was scared. So friendly staff, good people, 100%. I know I haven't seen the new officers yet, but trust me, I'm telling you, Dimi, your assistant, the secretary, everybody, they work with us. They work with us. Even when you couldn't give us the answer, they would run it by you. We'll get a response in no time. It's not like you never answer the phone or you never comply when you're supposed to. We get back an answer in no time. We always get 100% from you guys.
Good. I'm glad you enjoy. And the reason why I wanted to bring Mr. Kane during this conversation, is because there's so many people out there in the same position waiting to get a benefit because of the fear of going back to Jamaica. And I wanted you to hear because Mr. Kane wouldn't have gone if I didn't have him talk to somebody else. And so that's why I felt it was so important to have you on this show when we're discussing this issue that may come up about having kids here who have overstayed and the people are either waiting to become a citizen or or they have other issues that prevent the child from adjusting and they have to cancel a process. So it is possible, and here was the testimony from Mr. Kane. Mr. Kane, thank you for joining us. I won't keep you because I have some teaching to do on our program today. And but thank you for really coming through.
Well, thank you guys very much. And I just say this to anybody out there. This is the law firm that when it comes to my immigration issue. I was nobody. I don't think nobody can get scary than I was. And trust me, I have to bring them back. And everything that was explained was 100%, and it was explained on time, and every documentation was doing the ordered. What when I bring the package to them, everything was packaged the way it was set up, and it didn't take me no time. Just the form 601A was explained. I explained it to them, and I thank you guys that 100%. I recommend anybody to you guys. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. All right, Mr. Kane, have a great day. Be safe.
Thank you. God bless you all.
All right, so if you're just tuning in, it's Let's Talk Live, and we had Mr. Kane on here because that's going to take us to, um, before I even get there, one of the pitfalls, right, that people get into with the immigration process. Especially, you want to be with your kids, you want to have them here, but the adjustment of status process is not going to be applicable for everyone. Typically, you have to be in lawful status in order to adjust if your petitioner is not a US citizen, right? So if you are a permanent resident and you're filing for your minor children, you're filing for a spouse, and they are in the US and they have overstayed, they're going to have to go back to Jamaica or wherever, whatever country you're from, in order to cancel a process, or they're going to have to wait until they become a citizen. And in some cases, right, the citizenship is afar off because there may be some issues with taxes, there may be some criminal history that is barring the citizenship. We have people who unfortunately sometimes don't have the education level, they don't have to be able, or they're not competent, they may not, they have issues that prevent them from getting the citizenship timely in order for the children and the spouse to get those benefits. So it's important that we look at that. I have a lot of issues where US citizens, even filing for their own siblings or they're filing for their adult children who have overstayed, they run into that issue where the adjustment of status process is not the correct legal route to take the case. And we have to pivot and do something else, right? It is a hurdle, but we can overcome it together when we work together as a team. This is your team, we're your legal team, and you have to trust your attorney, right? Once you found the right attorney for your immigration case, you have to trust that the advice they're giving you is correct. And I understand the apprehension. So usually you'll hear me say, I'm asking you to do something that is risky. I'm asked because I can't make guarantees on the outcome. I don't own a crystal ball, right? I can't make guarantees, but I refer you to talk to people who I've given the advice, they've trusted me, and they're on the other side of this immigration process. So that's what we have to do sometimes. So let's talk about some of the common issues that you face when you're dealing with people in a preference category type of application. One of the major issues is dealing with children. You're a permanent resident, you filed for a child who's under 21 and you risk aging out. Or you filed for a sibling and that sibling has children who are derivatives, but they're going to age out, meaning that they're going to become over 21 and no longer considered dependents, right? We have to look at that. It's not just a matter of the age. There is a whole formula that we have to apply in order to assess whether or not they would still qualify. So don't just write it off. You want to get proper legal advice as to whether they still qualify as a child under the Child Status Protection Act. And that depends on when your petition was filed. It will depend on how long the petition took to be decided. Those are all some of the issues that we would have to deal with, right? One of the other issues is if you have filed, for example, you're a permanent resident, we talked about it, and you filed for an adult child, you can only file for a child who is unmarried. You can't file for a married child as a permanent resident. And if you do, there is it is going to basically terminate the application because there is no category for a permanent resident to apply for an adult child, adult married child. So if that child goes off and gets married while the application is pending, it's going to terminate the petition, and you'll have to file a new petition for them when when you become a US citizen, right? If you are a US citizen and you've applied for an adult child who is unmarried and then they now go and get married, it's going to change their category. They may have a longer waiting time for the visa to become available. So those are the issues. And I want to talk about, I have some evidence here, or an example I would like to say, of an issue. So I'm going to share my screen again for this. Um, I'll make it a little bit larger and then you'll just talk. So in the 60s, and this is circulating, so I'll touch on it today. Y- if I'm here, we are. All right. So Bob Marley's birthday is coming up in February. So he was a good example for us to use today for this issue, right? So in 1966, in January, Bob was granted a green card. So this is a copy of Bob Marley's actual green card that he was granted. And if you are on Instagram Live, I am so sorry that you are either not hearing me or we're having technical difficulties and you can't see it from Instagram Live, but we will repost this on there. There will be an Instagram feed for it and you can watch the entire program. But Bob was a permanent resident, right? Sidella, his mother, had filed for him, and he was unmarried, of course, at the time because there was no category, just like it is today, for him to be married. So in January of 66, Bob gets his green card approved at the embassy in Jamaica. And about little bit under a month later, in February, early February, February 10th, he and Rita Marley get married. And about 7 days, a week later, after getting married to Rita, he enters the United States and is admitted as a permanent resident, right? So here's a timeline. He gets his visa approved at the embassy, gets married, and then applies, because you don't apply for admission as a permanent resident until you get to the border and customs and border patrol, and they approve your green card at that point. So you could get approved at the embassy, say, yes, we're giving you the green card, your application is approved, here is your packet that you need to take to the embassy. But prior to you actually entering the United States, you take some action just like Bob Marley did, right? And what Bob did was he got married before he came in. And as a result of getting married, right, he was no longer eligible for the green card. So what happened was they actually revoked his green card from him because he was not eligible for the green card at the time when he was admitted as a married adult son of a permanent resident, right? So, and this is a pitfall that we run into quite a bit. And what happens to a lot of individuals is that they say, okay, I get the green card, let's get married, the embassy approved me, let's get married, and then when I get to the United States, I am going to turn around and I'm going to file for you, right? But guess what happens? When they now turn around to file for the married spouse, the issue comes up. Or when they go to apply for their citizenship, it comes up as an issue to be addressed. Let me stop sharing screen. There you go. It comes up as an issue because they were no longer eligible at the time they actually got to the US border and applied for admission in that status. So you have to be very careful of the clear steps that you take at the very beginning when you file for an individual. If the petitioner somehow happens to die during the process, that becomes also another issue. On I've been talking here the whole time. Oh my goodness. Hold on for me one moment. Okay, I was being told I was having some technical difficulties with the sound. So if you can hear us, just let me know on the chat that you can hear us. Um, but I was referring to um, because I think we have sound on Facebook and our on YouTube. Um, if the petitioner deceases, there will be an issue. Let me check our one moment. Let me just check this.